the rocks dream of? Nothing, because they don't dream. So that nothing, if you conceptualize it, because the rocks don't dream, and I know what you mean, because the rocks have no understanding of anything, they're not conscious in that sense. So if you say this is nothingness, that nothingness, can it originate anything? Can it make something? Can it transform something? Right. So if you and I exist now, can there be a time in the past where there was absolute nothingness?
Can there be a time in the past where there was absolute nothingness?
Absolute nothingness, the nothingness that we described.
I don't understand how you come to the realization that something. I don't understand what your argument is, that nothingness came from. What do you mean?
No. Nothingness is no thing. Nothing is no thing. It's not even an existence. It's a concept. It's the absence of everything.
Right.
It's a concept. It doesn't really exist. You cannot comprehend nothingness. But we can conceptually understand in contrast to what is something. The opposite to something is not something, which is nothingness. Yeah? No thing.
Yeah.
So if there was no thing, nothing, absolutely nothing, could you then have something?
No. You need a reaction for something to happen.
Right. So if something exists now, you and I, can there be a time in the past ever where there was absolute nothingness?
No.
Exactly not. That means you now have come to a realization something has to exist always. Good.
So,
we accept that? Something has to exist always. Because if something didn't exist always, you're saying at one point there was nothing. But that nothing cannot originate something.
so what is your argument? How did that...
I'm developing it.
Okay.
But at least we know something has to exist always. If we accept that one, then we can move on. Does that make sense though?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's what I'm saying.
Good. Let's move on. If something exists always, remember this something doesn't have a beginning of existence. It's always there. So whatever is always there, whether it's ad infinitum, where it's called infinite time, past, infinite something, whatever it is, it was capable of transformation. Because the universe now wasn't the universe 1,000 years ago, 1 million years ago. It has transformed. Now, for transformation, I am positing it requires at least 3 essential characteristics. Without these characteristics, no transformation is possible. Okay? Self-awareness, and I will explain each one in turn. Ability, will or volition, intention. To give you an example of what I mean by that, you all eat. We have to eat to survive. Sometimes you make your own food, right? Most of the time we make our own food. We don't buy our food, make our own food. We have a kitchen. Imagine now I want to make a sandwich. Now, if I was unconscious, not self-aware, like I was sedated, I was dead, for example, would I be able to make a sandwich? No. So I need to at least conscious to make it. Clear? I was conscious, let me grant that. But if I were not one with a will or intention to make a sandwich, I just sit there in my kitchen, thinking about writing poetry and, but never intending, willing to make a sandwich. Would a sandwich ever be made? No, I need to have an intention to it. Good. Now suppose I have the intention and I'm aware, I'm sitting there with the intent to make it, but these brothers, they tied me up. So that on my chair, everywhere in my mouth, my ears, my eyes, so I can't even program a computer and saying with my eyes, movement of my eyes, make a sandwich with a robot. I'm simply there. I have no ability to make it. Would I be able to make it? No. So at least from these examples we realized to make something which is a transformation. Sandwich is a transformation. It's not rearranging matter. Taking some pieces of bread, putting some butter or whatever, and then organizing in a particular form. It's a transformation. For this to happen, we must have these essential 3 minimum. There's more, but these are the 3 essential characteristics. So if you now use this and see, can we use this consistently in everything in life, even the origin of universe and so on, actually you will see that yes, if whatever existed always did not have those abilities, then you can't expect any transformation to happen. That means whatever it is, let's call it the originator, because God is a very loaded term. Not everyone will agree with it. Originator, transformer. Actually, it's better today. Transformer. The transformer. Something existed always, which is the transformer. Okay? That thing must possess these three essential characteristics. Awareness of self. Self-awareness is an important aspect. It is differentiating from something which is living. Robots are not self-aware. Artificial intelligence are not self-aware. Living beings are self-aware. So are we giving a property of consciousness, self-awareness, which is a property of living entities, something that is alive, rather than something that is a program? And then having the ability and the will. So you're saying something consciously wills to happen. Just like I would consciously want to make a sandwich. So this thing, the originator, the transformer, has qualities that we give to the originator, the creator. Because that is not a dead material object. It's like a living entity. Does that make sense so far?
I'm sort of with you.
Where do you disagree so far?
Well, the fact that you said there has to be a creator.
I didn't say there has to be a creator. I said there has to be these three essential conditions, characteristics, to be possessed inherently by that thing that exists always. Does it follow so far?
Okay.
Now think about that thing, which is conscious.
Okay, but is there any other way where you can have other options?
Could there be other way that transformation can happen? That's how you should come up with a pushback and saying, okay, let me see. Maybe there are alternative ways that this transformation can happen. That we don't need consciousness. That we don't need ability. We don't need intention or evolution.
So you don't believe that evolution happened? That is a reaction after years.
Evolution
years.
is a transformation of matter much later in our history.
It's scientific. It's not.
No. That's much later. A transformation happens. But this again, it tells you evolution happens by, again, you're saying non-conscious entity. And yet it has directions. It directs it from simple to multicellular, unicellular to multicellular, simple to complex. How does something which is unconscious have this understanding that this is how it should be?
But what you argue, that's unconscious. The rocks, the trees.
No, I'm saying evolution as a mechanism to explain transformation of matter to life is something that the evolutionists say it is not conscious, it is not self-aware. Mother Nature is not a mother who is aware of herself. Right. So how do you explain transformation which is with an intention, goal-directedness, that it needs to develop?
Reproduction, survivability.
Yeah, goal-directed, that's not evolution. We're talking about
that's not evolution, bro.
Since you talked about evolution, so now you have evolution as a mechanism, but what's doing it is not conscious. And yet you're saying it is directing to complexity. It's not saying, oh, you can devolve if you want. But it's...
Why do you need a conscious effort? Why do you need a conscious effort for the mechanism to work?
Explain to me how it can happen without a consciousness. How can you have directedness?
It's working right now.
Oh, that's a belief.
It's not a belief.
Give me an explanation coherently, rationally, that without consciousness, self-awareness, you can have this kind of transformation.
Transformation like...
There is no process and then there is a process. This is a transformation. There was no process.
I think he's catching up with the argument late. I think
Okay, I'll continue with you then. Anyway. Yeah. So, do you have a pushback?
To push
I'm pushing at this moment. No, I'm listening to what you're saying.
Yeah. So now we have arrived to a point where the thing that always existed is self-aware, conscious, possessor of intentional volition, and has ability. So if something has this is what we say, at least this is what you now should understand, what we mean by the originator of the universe. And what we say, God is someone that we should be thankful of, because that thing that brought us here in this transformation, with an intention to do so, knowing that we should say, oh, give me lungs to breathe in air and have the exchange and oxygen and carbon dioxide. Oh, thank you for that. Oh, give me not only that, a stomach and all these taste buds so I can taste. Thank you. That's great. Being grateful is what is required for us. So that's where religion comes in. That's where God comes in. That's where our worship comes in. So it's not a blind belief. It's not a faith which is totally unjustified faith. It is a faith based on solid grounding.
Okay. So does Islam believe that science does happen, but Allah created everything that is around us.
Islam considers science and religion as twin sisters. It was the Muslim scientists working within the Islamic civilization at one point, developing the methodology that we now have verification system, observation, verification, and so on and so forth, right? So that's why they were developing that. The West is heavily indebted to the Muslim civilization to give even the scientific methodology. So how can then science be something like, antithetical to Islam? When Islam develops,
Science itself is the evidence.
Islam develops.
We're animals. And Islam doesn't agree with that.
Wait a second.
It's true.
So how do we see science? Science is a great tool. Science is a great tool, but it has its scope and limitation. We cannot use science to say she is the most beautiful woman in the world. You have to use something else, right? There are other tools to measure and monitor, but not the science. Science has a different scope for that. So science cannot deal with certain philosophical questions, for example, because it's limited within the physical reality, physical world, observable physical world. It can make predictions, but it cannot be certain what's outside the visible universe which it operates in.
So are there any limitations in Islam where you believe that you can't counter anything that you see in this world?
Islam, in terms of its message, it has absolute message which is from the Creator himself directly. Okay? So these are the guidance that is on an absolute level or a power or a standard. Everything else about our knowledge derived from anthropology, history, scientific experimentation, these are tentative. They are subject to change, and they keep changing. At one point, we believed in the Newtonian mechanics and physics, and now we're saying that's the old model. Now we are into quantum mechanics and quantum science, right? So there's a paradigm shift that happens in science. Likewise in history, likewise in every other field. We learn as we uncover more and more with tools, with resources, with technology, with maths and science being developed.
This discussion is also evidence-based. This discussion is also evidence-based. Whatever Brother Mansoor is saying is also evidence-based. There is evidence that theory has shifted from one. Yes.
I agree with that.
So why are you claiming that your claim is based on evidence and others' claim is not based on
What was
evidence?
your background, if I may ask?
No, that's not fair. That's not fair.
My parents, they're both Indian. I was born Hindu, but I don't really follow any religion.
Sure. So you see, so when we now come to a point where there's a conscious being that wills the transformation to happen, we should ask, has this conscious being communicated to us? Because it's like communication everywhere. Communications in our DNA, communications in the physical constants, everything seems to be well communicated, organized. Has there been a communication? We say yes, there has been. And the Qur'an, if you ask now as a Muslim, the Qur'an is this communication from this Creator, and it tells us, actually, if you have a doubt that it's not, then you can remove your doubt by doing something. Falsifying it, for example, using falsification test, or applying some criteria to say, yes, this is from the Creator or this cannot be from the Creator. That's what the Quran says. To give you an example, this is a falsification that the Quran offers. In chapter number 2, verse or ayah, surah 2, Baqarah, ayah 23. And if you are in doubt, which is a plural term, you as in all of you, doesn't matter who you are, wa in kuntum, that's the Arabic word, what God we have sent down, this Quran, upon our servant, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then produce a surah, this is surah number 2, there's 114 surahs, yeah? Produce a surah like any of the surahs, yeah? Like a chapter, like thereof, and call upon your witnesses, supporters, other than Allah, God, if you should be truthful. So if your doubt is true, that it may be not from God, God didn't reveal it, what you can do is simply, if a book is not considered to be from God, then it's a human product. It's a product of something, right?
But isn't the word of God from Prophet Muhammad?
Let me address this point and then I can come back to that. If a book is not from God, then it's a product of someone or something, right? Could be artificial intelligence. At that point, there was no AI. But today it could be AI generated, right? A book can be written by an AI. But at that point, historically speaking, 1445 years ago, around that time, roughly. So either it was written by the one who said it's from God, he claims to be, Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He wrote it himself, his product. Or it could be, as some people say, some critics saying, it could be a product of his community, they worked together, or someone else that he had helped with. So again from agency who are conscious, who understand language and composition. So they composed it in this form. So Quran is saying, if you think it's not from God, then you, in principle, should also be able to write something like it. If he can do it, if they can do it, why cannot you? So that's what the Quran is saying. But the Quran is saying, but if you don't do it, and you will never do it, you'll never be able to do it, then fear the fire, whose fuel is people, and stones prepared for the disbelievers. So it tells you, like, look, there's a consequence, by the way. If you don't do it, and certainly you will fail to do it, then once you know you can't do it, at least know the consequences are heavy, not accepting it. It's hellfire, and it's actually stones and people who are going to fuel this hellfire. But if you, of course, accept it by taking this with them as an evidence, give glad tidings to those who believe and do righteous deeds, that they will have gardens in paradise, beneath which rivers flow. Whenever they are provided with the provision of fruit therefrom, they will say, this is what we were provided with before. And it is given to them in likeness. So every time you receive something, it would not be the same thing again. I had something like that before. So there will never be a boredom. Whatever you have, continuous, fresh things, renewal of things that will be, and they will have therein purified spouses. They would abide therein eternally. So that means companionship, love, contentment, tranquility, always there. That is what the Quran promises people who would accept the evidence and believe in it. So when we look at this statement, if you are doubtful that it's not from God, then what does the Quran say? It offers a falsification test. Because if someone can say, okay, here you go, there is a chapter like this Quran, and if you can meet it like that, then the Quran will be falsified, it cannot be from God according to its own criteria. 1400 years have gone. We are still waiting for people to say I've matched the Quran. Yeah? So this falsification test is a living testimony of the Quranic revelation, that if you're still doubtful, you know what you have to do, falsify. This is one of the falsification tests, there are others. So when we talk about how do we know this book, this communication from God, we have to have a mechanism. Otherwise, every Tom, Dick and Harry will believe, like, imagine now I can come along to you and say, God has made me a prophet. Yeah. Give me your wallet, your phones, your jewelry, because you have to believe in me. Some people do that, right?
You could say,
but this is why Islam is unique.
Word of God. But if I told you there's a cat sitting there, but it's not a cat sitting there, would you believe that it's there? Do you know that there's a hellfire after you die?
Wait.
That's what I'm saying.
Wait.
If you can't see it, how do you believe?
Do you understand, firstly, that anyone can make open claims that I'm a God, I'm a prophet of God, right?
Yeah.
So the Quran spares us from this kind of misery and suffering people may undergo. It says, look, where is your objective evidence that you are God or a prophet or whatever?
But I didn't claim to be.
Not you. Anyone that comes and claims. When Prophet Muhammad claimed to the people that I'm a prophet of God, he had objective evidence to demonstrate that. The Quran being one of the most important objective evidence. And it is an evidence till this day, and it will be until the end of the world. So if people still are doubtful it's not from God, all they have to do is understand what is the Quran like, because it says bring a surah like it, like thereof. Okay? So we have scholars giving the likeness of the Quran in book forms, and I have given lectures in the internet, produced videos about it, so people can know what the likeness is. And we are still waiting. Why? It is something that the Quran has a hallmark of the divine signature, so that people can know even when the Prophet has left us from this world. The Quran will still have its own evidence to be verifiable or not. So if I told you, like, you see this building over there, that's my building. Yeah. I made it. You can't make a building like that. You'll say, I'm an architect. What do you mean? I can make something like that. And then I say, okay, come and have a look at my building. Yeah. So you go with me and you see every brick in that building is floating in air and not touching the other one. Every single one of them. Then I say, okay, go and make a building like that. Yeah. Would you be able to? No. You would not be able to. You would not be able to. No architects today on planet Earth or in our universe that we know of, will be able to make a building like that. The Qur'an is made up of letters like that, and it is composition like that. And yet, within this composition the Qur'an made, no one can make that composition. Just like the building, it seems like easy to make, but you can't have it in this composition. So this is an evidence that we say, look, at least consider that Qur'an or Islam can be falsified by using the falsification test. Okay? So that's one thing that is the next point for you to take and say, okay, fine, I now know, okay, that there's likelihood and a possibility that this originator transformer may have communicated with us, and history tells us there are lots of claims over the historical past. People claim to be prophets and messengers of this God. So the step that I think you should take logically now is, how many of those transformers can there be who is always existent, have the ability? Can there be more than one, like in Hinduism?
But how can you dispute that there's...
Oh, this is yours? Sorry.
Sorry, could you repeat your point? Sorry.
Yeah. How can we be certain that there are not many of those transformers or originators or creators of God, but only one, like Islam claims?
Well, what's your claim that there's not more than one?
If there are more than one, the Qur'an says, then there will be chaos, corruption, and ruin.
But why would there be chaos?
Okay, now let me give you an example. Because when we talk about this something that always existed, that something is not limited or deficient. It's absolute. Because it didn't begin to exist. If something doesn't begin to exist, it has no limitation imposed by anything. It exists by its own self. So you cannot have any limitation to it. It will be absolute. The question now is, can there be more than one absolute? Do you drive? Do you drive? Okay. When he learns to drive, when you finish driving, get a license, like, are you learning to drive where some cars have 2 steering wheels, some cars have, like a instructor has some, right?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay. Imagine you have full set of steering and control in one car. You want to take the car to the south, and you want to take the car the other direction. And you're saying today, I'm not going to listen to you, I'm absolute in my thinking, no compromise. So you start driving. Where's the car going to go? North or south?
Wherever you want it to go.
Okay. She wants it south and you want it north. Where's it going to go?
Whoever's in control of it. Whoever's in control of it.
But both of you are in control. If they both control.
It's not going to go anywhere, is it?
It's not going to go anywhere. That means if there are more than one creator, this universe would not have days and nights and these rotations. It will be chaos. One of them will say, I want thunder now. I want sunshine. I want snow. It'll be all, oh, I don't like this earth. Destroy it. But no, I like this earth. Keep it.
On this earth, there's how many religions? Everybody believes there's a creator. There is more.
We need to focus on the subject that we're talking about, not about religion. Each religion can be examined by its own merit. I'm giving you a principle that, is it possible to have more than one creator? There are many religions which says there are more than one creator. We know that. But I'm saying, is that possible? The example of your car, driving a car, demonstrate to you, if you're strong enough, you could take the car the way you want and she fails, for example. Or she wins and you fail. But either way, both of you cannot be absolute. The car cannot go both north and south at the same time. Yeah?
Both can come into an agreement to go somewhere.
An agreement is not a sign of absoluteness. It's a compromise is weakness. When you compromise, that means you are already saying, okay, you know what, I'll listen to you.
Sometimes an agreement is a higher level.
An agreement is a compromise. It shows you're not sovereign. You're not sovereign. You're not in control. Your will is not the most high will. Yep. If I want a will to happen and says, okay, you know what, he says, put me a gun. Don't say that. I say, okay, I won't say that. You see, this compromise is always a weakness. But if I am the most high, the absolute, I do not need to compromise. My will is what's going to happen. So that's why, even the example of a car, you cannot have 2 absolute drivers and taking it both at the same time. If the universe had 2 creators, imagine one of the creators says, now, you know what, I want it to shrink now, the whole universe to expand, to contract, so fast that it does it in 5 minutes. able to do that. All powerful, no limitation. But the other creator says, no, I want it to continue with the slow expansion that it has. What's going to happen? We have a conflict of will.
What happens if both creators want it to happen? What happens if both creators want it to happen?
How can you have both creators who are absolute, they both want the same thing? Because absolute means I don't need to need some. In fact, here's another problem.
You could want to go to the supermarket with your wife.
Here's another problem. Here's another problem.
Two things could happen. Could be
Imagine. Okay, let's tell you how absurd these things could be. Now, absolute means the absolute knowledge, right? Imagine one of the creator has a plan, a thought, and he wants to keep it secret. Okay? So creator A wants to keep his plan secret. Is he able to do that? Yes, because he's all powerful. That's what it means, absolute. Creator B is all knowledgeable. He should be able to know everything, including the plan of the first one. So what happens? Does he find out the plan of God A, or God A keeps it secret? Two options, two possibilities. If he finds out, he failed to keep it secret, he's not absolute. If he doesn't find out, then he is not absolute. He is. You cannot have more than one absolute. I've given you two examples. I can keep on giving more and more, but I think this is sufficient to tell you you cannot have two absolute. That means a religion which advocates more than one absolute beings is a religion which is not rationally acceptable, coherent. Yeah? That's why we say, if you want to believe in something, look at what is rational, intellectually acceptable and coherent. Islam provides you that. In fact, can I borrow this Qur'an again? Which you were about to show. Look, chapter 112 in the Qur'an is called Surah of Purity, Sincerity, Surah Ikhlas. Here, this one. Surah Ikhlas. Say He is Allah, the one, the eternal refuge. The word actually means someone who is absolute, perfect, complete, self-sufficient. He neither begets nor is born, nor is there to him any equivalent. It's giving you a concept of that transformer, originator, creator God, that there's only one, unique, who is absolute, self-sufficient, not produced, born, generated, and doesn't produce, generate, beget, and so on and so forth. And there's nothing like unto this God. If you look at it, if you're one and absolute, you could not have someone else before you, because you are the absolute one. You cannot be born, you cannot be begotten. If you beget someone, produce a child, daughter or son, something, then you're no longer one anymore. There's more than one. But if you are one and unique and absolute, and you are not born, and you don't have any fathers and parents and lineage, there can be no likeness. You're absolutely unique, no comparison, no co-equal. That's how we mean coherent explanation about God in Islam. Does it make sense?
Yeah, thank you. I need to
go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.
Why the Qur'an challenges humanity until today. For over 1,400 years, the Qur'an has made a challenge to humanity, a challenge no book on earth dares to make. Allah says in Surah Al-Baqarah, "If you doubt this revelation, then produce a chapter like it." Simple challenge, open to everyone, for 1,400 years. So here's the question: why has nobody succeeded? 1. The Qur'an's falsification test. Think about it. The Qur'an was revealed to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, a man who could not read or write. Yet this book transformed nations, civilizations, and hearts. Its language, structure, depth, preservation, and impact are unlike anything else. And the Qur'an doesn't say, blindly believe. No, it says, test it, challenge it, produce something like it. That's confidence no human author could honestly have. 2. Why something must always exist now. Let's use simple logic. Right now, something exists. And if absolutely nothing ever existed, then nothing could ever begin. Because nothingness has no power, no will, no ability to create. So something must have always existed, but not just anything. The source of existence must have awareness, power, will, because blind matter cannot intentionally create a universe with order and laws. Islam calls this eternal source Allah. 3. Why one God makes sense now. Imagine multiple all-powerful gods. What happens if one wants rain and the other wants drought? Chaos. The Qur'an points out that if there were multiple gods, the heavens and earth would collapse into corruption. One universe, one system, one creator. Pure monotheism is the most rational conclusion. 4. Islam and science. Islam never told people to abandon knowledge. In fact, Muslim civilizations helped develop scientific methods. Observation, experimentation, verification. But Islam also teaches something important. Science explains how things work. It cannot explain why we exist, what happens after death, or the purpose of life that requires revelation. 5. The final message. The Qur'an says this life is temporary, and every soul will return to its creator. Paradise for those who believed and did good. Accountability for those who rejected truth after knowing it. The real question is not, is Islam popular? The real question is it true?